Perfect. So, servus and welcome everybody to our first Neco Collective Planning session. This is the first of a series of annual events that I would like to organize to integrate our community, meaning you, into our roadmap and decision making. You know, collective intelligence has been one of the core models behind Neco, actually one of the first things that I was thinking about when, you know, the idea of Neco started to grow, collective decision making, collective intelligence. And for this reason, we want to integrate our community into the planning process and use it to tap into the collective wisdom of our community, to allow you to bring up ideas, but also questions or raise concerns. Okay, so this is the collective planning session. Why now? Because now is an exciting moment in our company history. So the EU has finally published in July the new crypto regulation that will apply to all of Europe, effective next year. And we've had the opportunity to go into all the details, to a complete, full detailed legal analysis in the countries that we operate in, Estonia and Germany. So we had a team of up to 10 legal experts working on these things, trying to raise any issues, finding solutions. And we finished this exercise beginning of this month. So now we know what we can do, what we cannot do. We have potential solutions, and we still have a few options where I would like to get your opinion on, what you think is the best solution moving forward. And so these changes will be implemented very quickly in the next weeks as we're transitioning into the new model in 2024. And that's why I wanted to schedule this event before the end of the year so we can make decisions and prepare for these changes collectively. Yeah, the quote of today is this: we are moving forwards towards a new form of collective intelligence, and we're going to pilot it today, one form. It's called collective planning, and this is our methodology for today. So we have these 7 agenda items that I have published in our invite, ranging from the activities 2024, talking about the white paper, changes with the reserve and treasury, karma, UBI, and last but not least, branding. And for each agenda item, we'll go through a quick introduction where I'll present just a few basics and the core questions that we currently have, and invite you to also raise any questions that you might have. In the second step, we go through the idea generation. So the purpose is to generate a lot of idea in very short time and not to judge them. So, it's a period where everyone can bring up ideas. If they make sense or not, it doesn't matter at that point of time. Just bring your ideas forward. We can write them down. And then we go into the next step, which is the discussion. So where we can discuss these ideas, pros, cons, concerns, and so on, which will may lead to, solutions. Eventually, because we are a small community today, like 20 people, we want to share these ideas and solutions with Collexa and come to collective decisions through a survey. So we will put all these answers or ideas into a survey and then get the confirmation from the rest of community who haven't been able to attend. And the results of a survey can then be used to implement these changes in the future. I want to just remind you that a Collexa survey is not a Collexa referendum. A Collexa referendum is a process where there is a collective decision. So the result at the end is a final decision because it's, for example, a parameter that Collexa controls, such as the price, the budgets. These are parameters that are under control of Collexa, and they are determined in a Collexa referendum. So a Collexa survey is just a survey that brings results, and the results can be used and should be used for our decisions, but it's not mandatory. That's a very important difference. A survey is just an input, gives us information what our community wants. If we implement them or not, there might be some changes. There's always also some more details behind the scenes, sometimes especially legal topics where we might have, for certain reasons, to change things and do things differently than our community wants it to do. Okay, so this is our methodology for today. I want to go into the main activities. This is the first agenda item for 2024. There's not a lot of questions here, but I would like just to go through what we are planning to do now that we have a lot more legal clarity based on the new laws that came out and then the recent analysis. I don't know if I've communicated that recently. I think I have, but we have started the legal setup here in Estonia. We created a legal entity in Estonia, the first one. There's at least one more that's going to follow next year. So we have started with the legal setup of our DAO, of our decentralized autonomous organization. We've also started team building, so we have new team members here, especially in Estonia, who've joined us. Julia and Roman, for example, they're on the call today. And we are preparing to receive or to apply for the crypto license, the Neco license. We can start the application process in September. We're probably going to be one of the first companies to ever receive the license. It's not guaranteed, obviously, and there are a few things that we have to do. I'm going to talk about this later. So these are the setup activities that are planned for 2024. There's also some development that needs to happen. We want to work on a new white paper, another action item here in our on the agenda today, a new version of the Neco Constitution, and then internally the development of our stack chain platform. That's our carbon neutral blockchain technology, and eventually the Neco app. So these are the development activities. Funding and marketing. I mentioned before, we are closing our fundraising, our private sales round at the end of this month, and we'll go into a new Series A funding through impact investors with our goal of raising 5 million in the next phase. Other areas of work are rebranding. It's another item, agenda item later on our agenda, and a new website. Okay, so let me just bring up the questions. Question from Adrian. Will the German legal entity remain in place? Yes. Actually, both German legal entities will remain in place. We have our nonprofit, Neco Finance EV. That will definitely remain in place and also become part of the DAO. And then Protein Investment will remain in place, but will slowly transition all the activities step by step into the new Neco Finance legal entities. But they will both remain in place. They will just be shortly going to transition step by step the various Neco business units that are currently with Protein Investment to Neco Finance in Estonia, to the Neco Tech company in Estonia, and so forth. Yeah, the purpose of Protein Investment was only to be like a launch vehicle, to do the initial funding, investing, and to act as a legal wrapper. But it was clear that we're not gonna launch Neco, the for-profit part in Germany due to Germany's complex regulation and high taxation. Good. All right. So this is the first agenda item. As I said, there's not many questions that I have from my side. So this is what we want to do. We will cover a few of these activities later in the agenda. Are there any other questions from the community and any other ideas, solutions, questions? Yeah, the entity for investment in the next year will be Neco Finance OÜ, the legal entity we have here in Estonia. But the investment will only be available to institutional investors who will be able to invest money. They will not receive any tokens. We will stop selling tokens. So really, after the 31st of December, there's no chance to buy any tokens anymore for nobody. So this is very important. Now, guys, the end of the month is close. So if you want to invest more money or if you want to invite new people, There is still a few spots left. Really not many. I think we have 12 spots left. So do it now. After the 31st, we will not be able to open a new Neco accounts, and we will not accept any more investments, simply for legal reasons. Okay. Are there any other questions regarding this agenda item? Yeah. If you have an investor, yes, they can invest, but as I said, it will be a different model. It will be a different agreement. So it's a SAFT agreement. There will be no tokens sold. It's just a possibility for institutional investors to invest, but they will not receive any tokens until we go public. Okay, so there are solutions for impact investors. The minimum ticket size that we will have is 100,000 euro. That's our minimum per investor, and the goal is 5 million. Yeah, unfortunately, the legal entity will be the Estonian legal entity, not the German legal entity. So this is unfortunately something we cannot change. Okay, no questions. Okay. Yeah. Good question. What is stack chain? Is it a layer 1 protocol? Yes, it is. It is. Imagine stack chain as a more efficient and more sustainable version of Ethereum, a crypto platform that is completely run by renewable energy, has higher level of performance, highest level of security, and provides a lot more functionality that's important for things like accounting, banking integration, and especially around invoicing and all the other things you need when you work with money. So it's a platform that we currently use internally in a prototype version, and we're going to start to develop the next internal version, and we want to launch it as a separate product, a separate token that will also generate revenue in the future in 2026, our second ICO. And yeah, it's a layer 1 technology. It's technically not a blockchain. It's a stack chain because we don't have blocks, but it's a distributed ledger technology, so it kind of falls into the same area. Okay, guys, and let's go to the next agenda item. Oh, there's one more question popping in. How many investors are we right now? Around 300. Yeah. Good. The next item also, I think, is pretty short and precise. I've presented it in our last community conference. This is our roadmap. We're still in the build stage, but now we are really starting to build. Now that we have more legal clarity and a legal basis for what we're doing. In November, we closed our second round of private crowdfunding. We reached the 1 million goal in the second round. So in total, we have raised now over 1.5 million. And starting next year, we will go into Series A, raising 5 million through impact investors. Our ICO, the Neco ICO, is scheduled for 2025, simply because it will be not possible to get a license earlier than that. The processing of MiCA license applications will start in December 2024. And you can imagine there's usually like 3 to 6 months of delay, maybe even more, yeah, because it's, all these companies waiting for these licenses. So what we're trying to do is to submit our license or application as early as possible in September, to receive the license as early as possible and go public in 2025. StackChain is the second ICO scheduled for 2026. Our target is 100 million. And then the last one, Collector, where we have a target of 500 million. Yeah. So at this point, I would just like to ask the community in general, what you think about these funding goals. So from our side, this is something we consider quite realistic. 10 million in an ICO is pretty much standard today for us. It's just like these are the minimum goals. We hope to exceed them all. Once we have done our first ICO, the Neco ICO, I think we will have a lot more publicity. And when we start working with, when we start preparing for the Neco section ICO, things will be easier, and it will probably be even easier to raise money. In the past, some crypto companies have raised billions in the ICOs. These times are over on one side, which is not too bad, because often when you get a lot of money, you just end up wasting it, not being able to use, not bring it to the, not getting traction out of it. Now I think these numbers are a bit more realistic. And yeah, so exactly. So question into the community, how do you feel about these numbers? Do you think they are realistic? Do you think they should be higher? They should be lower? Is there any feedback? Okay, thumbs up. You can leave feedback by sending me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a text message, or just, unmute yourself and speak. If there's no feedback, then I assume it's okay. And yeah, we can move on to the next agenda item. All right, next agenda item is our white paper, version 3, and the constitution in version 2. So if you look at our current white paper in version 2, it's still from 2020. We haven't done major updates there simply because, we were still waiting for the legal basis, this MiCA regulation, to be released so we can finally make decisions. And now that we have legal clarity, we know we have to change a few things, even some change we didn't expect and didn't hope to change. And so we will have to rewrite the white paper. Some things will change, the agenda items of today, so we will rewrite them. I also want to make the white paper shorter. And with every version of the white paper, we're trying to reduce it simply because 30 pages are a lot to read in today's time, with the attention span decreasing and decreasing. So I'd like to reach like a 20-page white paper that explains the new model with the new rules. And this will be the final basis for our license, for our crypto license application. The white paper is one of the core documents that will need to be submitted to the authorities. So, and I'd like to write it collectively. So again, using collective intelligence and inviting our community to work together on the white paper. We're gonna use Google Docs, which is great for collaboration. So people can work together. All you need is a Google account. We can give you access and you can make suggestions. We can work together. This is something we do internally all the time. So all our documents are on Google Docs, and we usually collaborate collectively, working on the same document in parallel to create a new version. The questions I have here, I want to bring up a time frame. So my suggestion is to do it in January, February, as it's a really important thing to do as soon as possible. And I suggest to have these sessions and do weekly reviews, like so weekly video conference where all the authors can join and we can have discussions. And then people can continue writing, and on a weekly basis, we have these meetings to review the progress and to discuss any open questions. Okay, so questions, time frame. Does that sound reasonable for you guys? January, February? This will be, if you need longer, obviously we need longer, but we should get this done in the first quarter of 2024, as we then will need to prepare our license application, and this is a required document that we need before we can do anything else?
Seems to be short.
Yes. Yes and no. I think 2 months is doable. The last version was written usually in 1 month. We already have a basis, so we don't have to reinvent the entire wheel. And we want to finish it with 20 pages, which is also not too much. So we want to keep it short. As I said, if you need more, we can do another month. It doesn't kill us if you need more time. But I would like to get it done in the first quarter. And since things often take a little longer than expected, that's why the plan would be to do it over the next 2 months. So we'll have weekly sessions, means like up to 10 weekly reviews, 10 iterations to come to a final version of it. And this team will include our team, also our legal experts, and the people in the community that would like to join. Good. Question from Adrian, what are the main changes to the white paper? So the main changes are the exact topics that are on our agenda. So the treasury or reserve, the UBI, the karma, and the branding. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Flo?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that those time frames that you proposed, they're maybe more for community, because I think that the legal will be working with the documents with amendments, like because at the moment in Estonia we still do not know what kind of amendments will be done here in Estonia, in which way Estonia will adopt MiCA regulation. And as you know, we here may have some additional obligation regarding MiCA regulations. So I think that those time frames can be used by community, but the legal, I believe we will continue working with the documents until, like, I don't know, until summer, because we still don't know about amendments.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a very good point. So that's why also like to finish the this community white paper first, because for the white paper that we're gonna submit to the authorities will be in a different format. As we know, they already have defined what kind of information they want. They're not gonna probably look at our white paper, but a special version that makes it easier for the authorities to analyze our token. So I think this legal work will probably happen after we've finalized it with the community. However, we need to make sure that our white paper also fits the legal requirements. And as Julia mentioned, guys, there is still, even though the MiCA regulation has been published by the EU, now every nation has to adopt it, and there might be changes in Estonia from the standard model. We know there's a few ideas, supervisory board, so we're still waiting for them. They're not gonna be available by the end of the year, so probably beginning of next year in the first quarter, I guess. I hope. And so there might still be changes coming later from a legal perspective. With legal, it's not necessarily one of my favorite topics, because as you will see in today's session, unfortunately, the legal requirements are unfortunately limiting our ideas. They're kind of killing a bit of the innovation we have, and we actually had some quite challenges in the last months finding solutions, and I even had some sleepless nights, which is rare, because of one specific clause in these laws that was quite challenging for us. But we're going to talk about this later. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Julia. Okay, no, well then I am going to continue with my screen sharing. So here we are. Okay, I think this topic we can take off. Neco white paper. No, one more thing, Neco constitution. So we have an existing version of the constitution which contains the values of our community, these 7 core values, from equality to stability. And we have another version, which is the Neocracy Codex, which is the document describes our DAO, our decentralized organization. And they are both in version 1 available. You can find them on our website. Now, I would like to merge them into one single document. So we have less documents and less confusion, just one. And again, this is an activity where I would like to invite our community to contribute. We are probably going to do it in the same time frame, January, February. So it will be parallel tasks. The Neco Constitution will probably be more interesting for also our internal partners, because it's really about how the organization works internally, but it also covers things like membership that affects everyone in our community. Okay. Next. Now here, this is the big topic, guys. This is the reason why I had some sleepless nights a few weeks ago, and why we had to do another cycle of over a few weeks after our legal opinion to come up with a solution to a problem created by the MiCA regulation. So in general, I was super happy when the EU announced the MiCA regulation, because it really helped us. It finally provided a harmonized crypto law that will help us expand, at least in Europe. It will probably also be a bit of a standard for the world, at least similar to the GDPR and to the privacy laws. But there was a challenging part. So the new regulation has a very specific part that they divide tokens in kind of 3 classes: e-money, asset reference tokens, and others, or so-called utility tokens. And from the design perspective, Neco was initially more designed as an asset reference token, because we have the reserve, which backs up our tokens with other assets in fiat. Now, these asset reference tokens, they're a bit like, that's a regulation for stable coins. And there were a lot of additional requirements in terms of security for these stable coins. So they put in a lot of effort to make this a very strict regulation, which wasn't a problem for us, except for one clause. And that was the killer clause. They required 100% reserve backing, meaning a reserve rate of 100% or more, which is simply not possible in our model, where we have a fractional reserve system, where we have reserves which come from token sales, but we create additional tokens for universal basic income for the planet. So our core goal of having a positive triple bottom line depends on being able to do a fractional reserve system. Now, it's a bit unfair, in my opinion, that they required this kind of full reserve backing, because our current banking system is a fractional reserve system with usually less than 5% in reserves. So why would crypto companies be required to have 100% or more? Which doesn't really make sense, because the only time when you would need 100% reserve is when everyone wants to sell their tokens. And when this happens, your currency is dead anyway. So anyway, there was no workaround. And the regulation was very strict and very comprising. So we had to find a solution, and we had to give up on the Neco reserve. Simply because when we have a reserve, when we use a reserve to stabilize or back up the Neco token, then we would classify as an asset reference token, and we would have to have 100% reserve rate, which is not possible. Okay? So we had to find a solution which does pretty much the same thing, we don't have a reserve. And so this is what the new treasury system is about. So instead of one reserve, we now have the Neco exchange, which is responsible only for one thing, for exchanging Neco to fiat. Same rule apply. The exchange will only do that as long as the reserve rate is over 10%. So that will make sure that it's protected for bank runs. It doesn't crash if all the people want to take out money. So the purpose of this exchange is to provide the liquidity and the security in the system. It will not act as a reserve. It will not back up the Neco tokens. It will not serve stabilization. So I know that may sound a little shocking to many of you who have, like me, loved the Neco reserve and the features it provided. But if you understand how our stability was created over the last years, it was not because of the reserve. It was because of Collexa. So Collexa was the key in having this stability in our system. And this is what we want to make sure. So the reserve will no longer be will not serve as a guarantee for stability. It will be Collexa. So we'll put a lot more responsibility in Collexa's hands. Collexa has always been this tool that controlled the price. A lot of people thought our prices is depending on the reserve. This is not true. There are limitations. The reserve limits the price, but the price is actually determined by Collexa. And we will continue that, and we will give more power and more responsibility to Collexa. The other part, besides the exchange, is the Neco Treasury. So the Neco Treasury is where we store all our funds in our decentralized organization. Yeah, and funds means our fiat reserves as we have today. In future, also crypto, real estate, things that we plan to do, and maybe other assets. And I put a question mark behind it because that's a question I would like to put into the community. Can you think of other assets that we should integrate or should allow or should plan, or assets we should not use, and maybe criteria for these assets? This is something I would like to discuss. This is another question. The reserve rate will remain pretty much the same as it was. We can still use that term reserve rate. We cannot use the reserve anymore, but the reserve rate is a term that we have defined and we can use. It will be the same thing as more or less today. It will be the ratio between the Neco Treasury and the Neco money supply. So that won't change much, and we continue using that term. But as I said, we have to stop using the term Neco reserve. We have to stop selling this idea of a token that's backed up by a reserve. And we have to stop thinking of the reserve being the stabilizer in the system. In terms of the price, we will continue having our collective price control mechanism. So our quarterly referendums where Collexa decides what to do with the price. This will also, by the way, continue next year. So we hope to be able to continue to raise our prices every quarter and achieve like a 50% profitability per year, as we've done over the 4 years on average. The price increase will only be possible when the reserve rate is over 12%, same as it is today. And I would suggest a proposal here to add another criteria to keep the volatility under 5%, or vice versa, the stability over 95%. This is something we have accomplished in the past. We have never had more than 5% volatility. It will be an additional limitations in terms of price development upwards. Last year we had 69% of profit. With a volatility of maximum 5% a year, I think we can go up to like nearly nearly 80 or 90% of profit per year, but then the volatility would be above 5%. So this would also be a maximum limit for profitability. And I believe, we've been generating a lot of profit over the last year already. 50% is a lot. Roman, our internal auditor, was shocked when he saw that we had really been delivering this over the last years. He thought it's very risky. Actually, it's not. I think we could have done more. But in terms of our mission, you know, we want to have a good balance between profitability, but also, you know, social and environmental responsibility. So I think this upper limit, this volatility limit, would be another good parameter between in which the price, the Neco price can move. So limiting the decision-making power of Colexa. It will create a spectrum of the price where we can operate, which is sufficient, in my opinion. Okay, so these are the topics as questions as other assets and this additional factor, the volatility factor. These are things I would like to get your feedback on. I know this is a hot topic, so I'm going to share the screen and open up for everyone to speak, ask questions. Hope you understood the difference between our current reserve model and the future treasury system, which is slightly different to be compliant with the new MiCA regulation. It will allow us to apply for the MiCA regulation as a utility token, which would remove these, would not require us to have a full 100% reserve and make a lot of other things much easier for us, especially around the assets as well. It will just make our life a lot easier. However, we have to make sure that we do not get classified as an asset reference token. Otherwise, we have a big issue.
In my ears, that as I don't understand all this stuff too deeply, it's like they killing the idea of having a cryptocurrency that's backed up in with real assets.
Yes.
Because 100% makes no sense because you don't have anything to work with. So I don't understand what's the idea behind that.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of rumors that say this was triggered by the fear of the regulators that stablecoins such as Facebook Libra could become more popular than the system and lead to a crash of the existing system. The existing fiat system is in charge. That's why there were a lot of, as I said, I was surprised of how detailed the regulations were. It was not allowed to charge interest. Another thing interesting, you know, they didn't allow interest. I mean, obviously that was in our own, you know, we liked that idea, but that's quite strange. And the other thing is they limited the amount of transaction for this specific token classification, I think 200 million euros a day. Otherwise, they would have to reclassify, or they would be required by the regulator to reduce the amount of transactions. So it seems like the regulators were really afraid of something like Libra from Facebook or other stablecoins to be taken over and becoming more popular than the existing currencies and thus endangering the existing system.
Sure.
This is a bit my feeling. Another feeling is there have been, you know, these stable coins that collapsed in the past because they're not fully backed. And so there are these scandals that we have seen in the last years, they might have also triggered our regulators to be a bit more concerned about the stable coins. But I agree with you. In general, it doesn't make much sense, in my opinion, to require stablecoins to be at least 100% backed by other assets. So it's gonna limit. It's gonna be very limiting for a lot of companies because even cryptocurrencies that are in other jurisdictions, like companies from America, Dubai, will not be able to sell the tokens in the EU without a license. So the EU is really blocking their space against any cryptocurrency that does not follow the new regulations. Okay.
What does that mean for my personal idea? I'm working on this with my Green Heritage. I work on buying land, and the main thing what we do is that we regenerate the land like acres, and we want to plant them in with certain plants which for 20 years they grow the same, and they keep up the humus content in the soil. So the basic idea of green heritage is and the living soil is to regenerate the land. And the idea is that part of financing that is to use this land as a security in terms as the way you are trying to regenerate. So for me, I don't understand yet really the links, but I have the idea that it must be a really good idea to have healthy land being a security for this way of work you trying to establish. So can you help me to understand these links and what does this mean in, for example, for the Neco?
Yeah. So your idea was also something I was thinking of, buying land through Neco and using it to preserve, for example, existing rainforests and adding these lands as actual reserves into like actual, it's something real with real value, not just fiat, into our reserve, thereby growing the reserve, thereby allowing us to create even more money in the system. So this is the idea. As an asset reference token, that would have not been possible, or at least high risk, because the regulation prohibits these things. Not really true. It doesn't prohibit it, but it would make it very challenging. So when we get classified as a utility token, we can do whatever we want. So we can define how we want to measure our treasury and our reserve rate. So this would be possible. It's another reason why I'm so keen on getting the classification as a utility token, because then we can continue this plan. Otherwise, it would have been a challenge. If you want to have your own token, which is based on the fertility of ground, I think this is also something you could do with a utility token. If you want to do it as an asset reference token, the limitation is that the value of the token cannot be higher than the value of the underlying assets. Right? So not a fractional reserve system. That's the limitation. You cannot have a fractional reserve system, so the value of the token cannot be more than the value. Which also makes a bit of sense when you think of it. You cannot artificially inflate values, which is a thing that has happened in the past. So you can do this, but the token that you would generate or issue would always be based on the actual value of the underlying land. Make sense?
Well, more or less, yes.
Yeah, no, guys, I'm sorry we have to talk about these legal things. Actually, I don't want to bother you too much about these things, but they are really critical, and I want you to understand why we're changing things, why we have to. It's not that we wanted to, but it's really that we have to. I said these are changes that are unfortunately a bit limiting, and there's one or two more things that I will have to cover today. Yeah, what else? Will Collector decide with edges be used? Yes. So this is what I would like to decide. In general, my thoughts is our treasury will have more flexibility in the reserves, so we can decide which reserves we want to take. It's not the law that will define it for us. It will be us, much better. I prefer to be regulated by Collector rather than regulated by a regulator. And I would recommend to have mostly stable assets. So assets with a low volatility, less than 5%. So most cryptocurrencies would not be a good solution in our reserve, in our treasury. If we have enough, we can use a bit, maybe more risky things, but I want to invest it into sustainability, into other projects that are long-term sustainable, but still have enough assets that we can sell at any time, so we have liquidity. So if we need the money, we can get it. We're not going to invest into projects that might take 10 years for us to liquidize these assets. Initially, the fund management of our treasury will be done internally in our organization, but I think over time we will ask Collector more and more to maybe collectively manage our treasury. Yeah. Like with everything, I really believe in Collector and in the collective intelligence. So I think over time, we will start giving more and more responsibility to Collector, and we've done that over the first years as well. You know, Collector started to take over the universal basic income allowances. Now we're giving even more power of the price control to Collector. So I think once we have established things and tested things internally, we will start giving certain domains to Collector and, you know, become even more collective in the future. That's in general my approach. So starting small, starting internal testing things, and then when we are ready, we will hand these responsibilities over to Collector. However, there are some limitations. So also with stability, some of the rules, for example, these parameters for the stability, these will be set and will be controlled by organization. This has some legal reasons. Not everything can be controlled by Collector. And we have to have a bit of a balance. You know, the Collector is not, you shouldn't make Collector the most powerful thing that controls everything. So we have to have this separation or division of powers in the organization, where Collector is one part, where we also have a supervisory board that is responsible for upholding stability. And we have an executive board that needs to figure out ways to, you know, put these ideas also into reality. And always there are legal requirements where unfortunately we just have to make sure we are compliant. All right, good. Guys, this was one of the key topics. So are there any more questions regarding the treasury model and the end of the reserve? No more questions. Good. So this will be effective beginning of 2024.
One question is there,
Yes.
because you asked what kind of assets should be in the treasury.
Yes.
So what do you mean with assets? Is it like fiat currency, or is it like houses, or is it like, what kind of assets do you mean?
Exactly. So the assets currently, we have almost only fiat. Yeah, we have 700 or almost 800,000 euros of fiat assets. In future, we want to diversify that. We will add more fiat assets. We'll probably add other currencies like the Swiss franc. We might add crypto assets if they are stable and sustainable. So Bitcoin, for example, no way. Then real estate, land, maybe rainforests. So we can buy and preserve rainforests, and the value of these assets can become part of our reserve, increase our reserve. And that way we can, it's a very cool effect. So imagine we buy rainforest for 1 million Neco, and we can pay Neco, that's the key. Then a value of 1 million Neco will be added to reserve, which allows us to create 10 or up to 10 million or 9 million Necos on top, because our reserve has increased. And then we can buy more, right?
Sure,
So this is a way how we can really grow fast while owning more and more land. And the good thing about land, it's a real estate. It's a real value. Another thing that is super exciting are NFTs, non-fungible tokens. If you use them for something proper, you know, I'm not talking about like pixel images of something that's, you know, not so valuable really for us. But what you could use them for is, for example, using NFTs for trees or for diversity, and create these NFTs for every tree that we plant. And then it can grow in value with the growth of a tree. And these trees would become part of our reserve. You know, this is also changing the entire model. Right now, trees only have a value when you cut them down, unfortunately. And you have to pay to plant them. Yeah, that's why our current system is destructive by design. So we want to change this, turn it upside down, or downside up, as I say. So when we put value on a tree, a live tree, not for cutting it down, but for having it there, and measure them through NFTs and let them grow in our reserve and also maybe grow in value, it will help us increase the treasury, increase the effect and the triple bottom line of our organization. Yeah. So these are assets I was thinking of. If anyone else has any other idea, feel free to share that idea. a few assets that people have asked in the past: gold, silver. I am against these things. Gold is not sustainable. It has come with a lot of pollution in the past. It has killed thousands or hundreds of thousands of lives. It is overrated because you really don't need gold that much. People still think somehow that we make coins with them. No, it's not much. It's not a metal that is super required. It's nice and shiny. It has some nice capabilities. You can make jewels, and you can put a bit in cell phones, and you can, yeah, what can you do with it? Not so much, right? But it's still priced at a price that is incredible, with in total like $12 billion worth of gold worldwide. But if you put all the gold we have into one square cube, I think it would be a square cube of 20 times 20 times 20 meters. So a very small thing. And imagine that is 12.5 billion. That's more than the entire GDP of Germany. So I would say gold is highly overrated. It's not sustainable. It's not something I would like to have in this reserve. There is a raised hand. Tina, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Maybe I have an idea, but I don't know whether it's really a good idea, and I can't explain it in English. Is it a possibility to
do it in German.
Send it to you?
Yes. But just do it in German now. I can translate it for you.
Ich habe es dir schon mal zugeschickt. Das ist ein Unternehmen, die heißen Evercraft, und die sind dabei, eben unabhängig von staatlichen, also von Investitionen, die eben dann auch zurückgezogen werden können. Die sind dabei, und am 18. Januar soll die erste Anlage in Betrieb gehen. Ich sage jetzt mal ganz zusammengefasst: aus Müll, Wasserstoff und Carbonate herzustellen. Und ich kenne mich sowohl, und die haben eben die Basis auch auf Asset, also auf einem Token. Die haben sozusagen, sind eine Community wie hier auch, nur haben halt diese unter anderem dieses Produkt am entwickeln und jetzt frisch im Angebot. Soll ich dir da mal was, ich habe dir mal was zugeschickt, aber da war mir noch gar nicht klar zu dem Zeitpunkt, dass wir in der Neco Community ausschließlich auf Fiat bauen bis jetzt. No.
Okay, ja, schick's mir mal zu.
Würde mich auch sehr interessieren, weil wir sind auch an Wasserstoffproduktion dran aus nachwachsenden Rohstoffen, und das geht in fast die gleiche Richtung.
Ja.
Das ist ein Unternehmen, in dem Fall aus Österreich. Aber ich schicke es dem Flo zu, und Flo gibt dann weiter. Ich glaube, das ist das.
Das wäre super. Ja, okay.
Gerne.
Yeah, danke, Tina. Okay, just in English. So Tina asked if we can support other companies. In this example, a company called Evercraft from Austria that has a technology to turn garbage into hydrogen and carbon, net, and they have a token. And if we can invest in that, I said, yes, in general, we can look into this. In general, in future, we want to support without our money. We want to support these technologies. We want to support the development. But this is a, step by step. First of all, we have to get our license next year, and then we go public. And as we grow, we can start doing more and more things in the future. Right now, our still called reserve is only fiat. That's what we count in. And then starting next year, when we have the treasury, we will start investing in other things, because we have a lot of money sitting on the bank accounts, and I really want to put this money into work as well. However, we still have to be careful with, we still need some money. There's some legal costs coming up, so we also have to be available to use these reserves if we need them.
Another asset that could be interesting is watercraft. So if you look at it, it's a real estate that produces quite a lot of profit, because it produces electricity, which will always be needed. And if you don't make any mistakes in building the watercraft, you have quite a good real estate. And what comes in is that if you get CO2 certificates on that too, so it's getting highly profitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a lot of great ideas out there, especially the tokenization of carbon. So there's a lot of good ideas out there. So super interesting also for us to invest into these carbon tokens. We have our carbon offset partner, Fair Ventures, also has not subsidiary, is a subsidiary, but a daughter company, a sister company that are working on these things. So there's a lot happening, and I hope that we can leverage our system to support these models too, where applicable. Okay. All right. Good. So this was one of probably the most critical topics to discuss with you guys, and I'm glad that you shared all these ideas, and I hope you understood the change that's happening, is that we're going to communicate that in the next days and weeks. So you will start seeing difference. It's mostly a difference in terminology and a few differences in processes. But in general, I hope we can more or less continue as we have done in the past. And I believe it will not affect the stability of the system. I think it will remain the same. Good. All right, let me go back to the presentation. Good. All right. So, the other thing that was killed by the regulators are our karma tokens. So, we had a legal opinion in Switzerland last year where they classified karma tokens as securities, and the worst thing that you can have as a classification for a token is a security, because it's just a tremendous amount of red tape and regulation and requirements to issue a security token. So it was recommended by all my lawyers to abandon the tokens and replace them with karma points. So no more tokens. So starting next year, so in 2 weeks, all karma tokens will be removed. They will be replaced by a new point system and badges. So this is something that has to happen. This is not a subject for discussion. This is something, a legal requirement, or more or less, a financial legal requirement. But so it gives us the opportunity to redesign the karma system and make it better than the existing karma token system. And so these are, you see everywhere there's a question mark behind it. So these are ideas I want to bring up, and I would like to get your feedback and your ideas, what you think. In terms of first question is, how can karma points be earned? I would like to continue the way we have done it in the past. You can earn karma points for investing money. In past, you could only earn karma tokens, but never lose them. So if you, for example, invest 1,000 and then take it out, you will still have the karma. This is something that we will change, because I felt that this is something that allowed for a bit of manipulation. So instead, we will use the cash balance. The cash balance is we measure the amount of money, fiat, that has been put into reserve or taken out of reserve by a member. So people who put more money in reserve have a positive cash balance. People who take more money out of the reserve than putting in have a negative cash balance. And the karma points will depend on your cash balance. So they will go up when you put money in, and it will go down when you take money out. The second part is time. We want to continue giving karma points for volunteers. So for our people who clean up the beaches in future, that work for our nonprofit, or that even support other nonprofits such as Greenpeace or so on in the future. So partner organizations where people can log their hours more or less in our system, and we give them karma points for volunteering, a kind of way to honor and appreciate people doing this work. There is a legal challenge, which is important. So right now, the karma tokens or the karma level determines your universal basic income, which would mean that people who volunteer actually get money from us later, more money, because it increases their universal basic income allowance. Then legally, this would not be considered volunteering. It would be considered payment for work. And our organization would suddenly be an employer. And then this would trigger all these employment laws and other issues that we don't want to get into. All right. However, we still want to be able to offer karma points for volunteering, but we need to differentiate. For the universal basic income allowance, any time that you have, or any karma point you've earned through volunteering will not count for your universal basic income allowance. What does that mean? Let's assume you are karma level 5 and you have volunteered. So you would normally be on karma level 4 plus an extra karma level for your volunteering work. Then in our system, you're still karma level 5, but if you apply for universal basic income, you would only receive the allowance for karma level 4 because we have to deduct the amount of points you have earned from volunteering, right? For legal reasons. So the volunteering time cannot be used for any financial advantages. But karma is more than just UBI allowance. In future, or not just in future, already today, we prioritize based on karma. So we've started a pilot for convertible UBI, and we invited only our members with karma level 5 or more. This is in general how we want to do it in the future. If you roll something new out and we have only limited supply or limited capacity, we would prioritize based on karma level. So members with higher karma level receive things first, yeah, because usually they have been with us for longer, they have done more for the community, they know the system better, so they are usually better suitable as pilot users in our organization. So karma level will not just determine the allowances for UBI or the allowances for in future healthcare and education, but also the prioritization of rolling out features to members. And so volunteering can increase your karma level, and you will be karma level 5, so you will receive things earlier. That's not a financial advantage, but it cannot be used for UBI. Okay, hope I was able to explain that clearly. Let me just see what our chat messages say. Yes. Wolfgang, he runs a nonprofit. So he is the CEO or managing director of our carbon offset partner, Fair Ventures Worldwide. He mentioned something that is worth mentioning. There is a limit, currently 840 euros per year in Germany, that you can receive as compensation for volunteering. Yes, that's true. And yes, that's something we could offer. There is, however, this challenge that it's that we would need to know if, for example, if you receive this from one organization or if you receive that from 2 organizations, it's a specific regulation in Germany that might be different in all the other countries. So we would really have to think on a country by country basis what this limit is. And, we are operating right now, we have members in over 60 countries. So we would have to analyze in all of these 60 countries what the regulations are. So it's something that I want to keep in mind for the future, so that there is some amount of volunteering we can pay out on a one-time basis or one-time basis per year to members for volunteering. It will probably depend on the country. It will be limited, and it will be a one-time thing. But yeah, this is something that is an option. Okay. So yeah, as I said, it is an option. It's just unfortunately a bit of a complicated legal thing. And that's why we might wait. If it is something that we can implement without getting legal headaches and without me having sleepless nights, yes, I would love to do it. In general, guys, I want you to understand, we have been very, very generous in the past. It's unfortunate that the law says you cannot be so generous anymore. There's a few things we have to change. So the level of generosity that we've shown, especially by giving karma tokens for donations and stuff, these are things that unfortunately the law does not allow anymore. So we have to be a bit more strict with these things. Yes. So the last area where you can earn karma points is referrals, so inviting others. So in the past, you only received a karma token if the person you have invited also got a karma token. And we want to make sure in future this model works. So the question I have here is, how do we measure karma points for inviting others? Do we give them a certain amount of points per referral? Or do we really track how, if the person referred actually contributed to our community, for example, invested money or invested time? Because we've also seen, like in the beginning, when we had no minimum investment, that just a lot of people signed up and never used their account or just applied for universal basic income. So they were not really helping the community to grow. They were actually just taking money out. So I was thinking of a karma point system where the amount of karma points you earn also depend on how much karma points your referrals earn, right? So if you only get someone to sign up and register, that's not really helpful for our community. But if you get someone to sign up, register, buy 1,000 Neco tokens and offset the carbon emissions, they would earn some karma points. You would earn some karma points. That will also incentivize our community to invite supporters, people who are actively engaged in the community more than just, inviting all your friends that you have in your contact list. Yeah. So these are the questions. Then badges. So here another legal issue we have, where unfortunately we have to actually make a change. So in the past, we have given karma tokens for donations such as carbon offset, but by law, a donation cannot have a reward in return, and karma tokens are a form of reward. So we actually have to take all these karma tokens back that we have given. I'm really sorry to say that, because this is something we promised, but there was no other way around. So we have to undo this. But instead of karma tokens, I want to offer you badges. This was also more the idea. So if you pay your carbon free tax, if you offset a carbon emission, you get a badge that you can show on your profile. It's like, hey guys, I am offsetting my carbon footprint. I am not just a hypocrite talking about how green I am. I'm actually doing something, and I show my integrity. And so I would like to use these badges for donations. They're not related to the karma points. They're not related to your karma level. As I said, we cannot give karma. We cannot even give karma points for donations. Otherwise, it would be a return. But we can create these badges, which are just a sign of appreciation for people who donate. My suggestion is to offer that for donations. Same amount, like you get a badge if you donate, you get a badge if you offset your carbon emissions. Maybe you can earn a badge every year, and then badges for investments, such as we have in the past. For 1,000 Neco, you get the private sales investor badge. For 100,000, the impact investor badge. So, for a certain amount, you can have certain badges that you can show on your profile if you wish. If you don't, obviously you can also hide it. But this would be a way how people can show how much they have contributed to our community. Good. So, as I said, karma points instead of karma tokens. Then the next challenge is we have karma points we can earn quite a lot. Let's say we have a new system. We give karma points for, let's say, every 100 euro they invest. And then we have to translate these points into our 10 levels. Yeah. So right now there's a logarithmic function or exponential function from level 1 to 0, depending on the amount of karma tokens. We have to change this for karma points and create a new system that matches karma points to levels. So for example, if you have 10 karma points, it's level 2, 50 karma points, level 3, and so on and so on. And this system needs to be updated on a regular basis because, over time, people will earn more and more karma points. And that's a question I have to the community. Maybe you guys have ideas how we can, structure this system, how we can regulate this this linkage between karma points and karma levels. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and hope that in the community there is a great idea coming up, or there are some thoughts regarding the karma levels, the karma points, or maybe additional ideas of what we can integrate for what we can give karma points for, not just the 3 things that I mentioned, maybe even more. See chat messages.
Do you have an idea what is the target group we are looking for with Neco? So that it should fit into this target group or these target groups, so that it's gonna make some sense with them, that it fits together in any way.
Yeah, our target group is called the LOHAS. LOHAS stands for Lifestyles of Health and Sustainability. I'm just going to put that in our message. Where's the meeting chat? LOHAS. So people that have a lifestyle of living healthy and sustainable. It's a demographic segment that makes up 10 to 50% of the population in most developed countries. They are usually a bit more educated and have a bit more money than the average. And you can spot these groups very easily because of the consumption behavior. They drive electric cars, they do yoga, body, mind, soul, meditation. They invest in green technologies. They recycle. And there are specific organizations, like we also want to target not just consumers, or people, but organizations. And the target organizations would be in the same community, like the suppliers, like organic markets, electric car manufacturers, and so on and so on. This is kind of our target group. I think our karma system, so this is the target group for the beginning of our project. I think once we grow and become bigger, it will be more mixed with the average. But initially, this is where we want to focus on. I think our karma model is something that will not be necessarily so much tied to a certain target group. I think it's something that should work with any kind of group, and just make sure that we cover the entire spectrum of activities. It's a reward system, kind of a loyalty system, or miles and more, where we want to reward activities by our members that help our community to grow or expand. Yeah.
The basic idea that I see is that if you look at our society, the lot of the basic jobs, how do you say, die wichtigsten Aktivitäten in unserer Gesellschaft, wie Mutter zu sein oder alte Leute zu pflegen oder Krankenhauspfleger zu sein oder Pflegerin zu sein, die fallen aus dem Werteraster und in unserer Kultur und dem Anerkennungsraster raus. Und wenn man das drehen könnte, dann würden man aus der Grunddynamik der Kultur, in der wir festhängen, da sozusagen eine neue Sprache reinbringen. Aber ich weiß natürlich auch nicht, wie das gelingen kann.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Tobias. So I want to translate it into English for all of our community. So what Tobias is mentioning is the issue that in our society today, the people who do a tough and important job, like nurses, you know, and caretakers and mothers and teachers, have often the lowest level of income and doing the hardest job. And I know because of, you know, for example, my mother was a nurse, so I know how much she earned. Whereas other jobs that create much less value for society, for example, speculation, banking, hedge funds, yeah, that often not developing any or creating any value for society, but just taking value from society or from others, have sometimes, you know, incomes that are absurd. So how do we change this? And that's a good point. In general, how do we change it? So we want to provide the universal basic income. That is a way to leverage the lowest level. And by using our system to, you know, in addition to universal basic income, of the other things I have planned in the future or I have in mind for the future, I have envisioned for the future, is a healthcare system and an education system, you know, where our community generates tokens to pay the teachers and nurses to do these jobs. Yeah. So this doesn't work with volunteering, because volunteering really means you have to do it for no payment, unfortunately. So the only thing we can do is appreciate it with karma tokens. But once we build these other systems, like the healthcare system, the education system, we can also, you know, help to increase the income of you know, of people like nurses and teachers.
Wouldn't that be a great story if like women that are mothering alone, like eine Mutter, die alleinerziehend ist oder ein Vater, der alleinerziehend ist,
Ja.
dass die quasi ein Token oder eine Anerkennung in unserem System kriegen. Also das zu konstruieren, weil das wäre natürlich die Mega-Marketing-Story schlechthin,
Ja.
weil damit könnte man das ganze Neco-System auf einmal erklären in einer Anwendung, die nach draußen geht.
Yeah. Yeah, very good question. Let me repeat it in English. So Tobias is asking if we can support especially mothers, especially when they're single moms, with our system. And we already do, simply because universal basic income is universal. So we have a few parents in our community who get additional money through the universal basic income for the kids, because everyone that is born, from the date they are born, they can receive universal basic income. And until they are 18, their parents can use the universal basic income of their kids. They have access to these things. They can use it. And so in a way, we are already doing this through our universal basic income program. There may be option to differentiate that in future more, to, you know, pay more to single moms if we want to. You know, we have to consider if that is still in our framework of and fulfills the value of equality, because we also want to make sure we treat everyone equal. As I said, right now, I think the solution really is universal basic income, because it can be used to help these families specifically, because for every kid they can receive universal basic income.
But this the universal basic income is not a story, you know. It's a structure that makes sense, but it's not the story that you can tell your friends. And if you want to promote Neco, it's a different story if you can tell these are guys, they support mothers, you know. This is a different way of
For me, it is a story, Tobias. We just have to tell the story. You know, we have examples of community members who are willing to tell the story, and where we could share the story, how Neco has helped them.
Okay.
How universe basically. I don't think this is, you know, I think really we can make it a story. I'm with you, you know, if our community decides we want to give even more money to those groups? Yes. Always keep in mind equality, and also there's always, you know, to manage all these things, to have some extra rates, it creates additional levels of complexity. And we have to, you know, get confirmation of how many kids people have, and so on and so on. Are you really, you know, a single mom or not a single mom? In our political system, usually have all these complicated discussions around, you know, what criteria increase and lower. I usually find this is just having a level of complexity which makes it very difficult. You have to fill out forms, you have to manage things. It creates a lot of effort. So I personally I prefer to have very simple solutions, where it's very simple. Everyone can apply for universal basic income. It's the same for everyone, regardless of your gender, regardless of your age, regardless of your income. And then you don't have to deal with any regulation and and all these formalities. Okay. Good. Tina, you raised your hand.
Yes, thanks. I have two ideas or questions or Anregungen to
Yes.
UBI.
Yeah.
UBI is an idea or a system that the idea is existing in unserer Gesellschaft. Also sowohl
Society. Mhm.
yes, sowohl weltweit habe ich da oder bin ich da, unterstütze ich da diese Idee, also auch mit dem ein bisschen finanziell, als auch deutschlandweit. My two questions or ideas. I can understand that you first have to take your normal Necos and then your UBI Necos. That I can understand. But I can't understand why get I less UBI Necos when I my cash balance is going. That is not the idea of UBI, because if I have when I have less money or less Neco, I need UBI, and other people who have a lot of they give to as a I think
I know. I had the same discussion with Cyril. So
okay.
let me give you my perspective on it. And I know this is a topic, actually, it's on the next slide. So maybe because you already mentioned, let me maybe just go and talk about this UBI topic, because this is exactly where your question would be put. Give a bit of an intro to the community, and then re-raise your question, and also explain, from my opinion, why it makes sense the way it is. But I am open for, as a discussion. So let me go back to my screen sharing. So we are gonna move on from Karma to UBI. So Tina, for example, you were part of our pilot program for convertible UBI. So we allowed a selected number of our community, people with or members with Karma level 5 or more, to participate and convert universal basic income to fiat. So I put this as a question: do you want UBI to be convertible? But so far, you know, everyone was super happy about it. I initially thought it's impossible. It would make it very difficult for us, and it would lead to, you know, people just taking out money. But I think we have found a solution that allows us to make UBI convertible, and the pilot so far has worked really well. I want to invite levels 3 and 4 in the next quarter. So that will double the risk in total. You know, we're gonna double the risk, because that's, you know, these groups have currently, I think, almost 300,000 Neco on their UBI stacks that could be converted to fiat. If that happens, you know, it would really affect our reserve. So far, it hasn't affected our reserve much. So I think it is something we can do. And so my suggestion is to roll it out to also the members with Karma levels 3 and 4 in the next quarter. And then If that works, we can roll it out to all the other levels. Universal basic income was one of the most challenging projects, because we tried to put some rules in. We tried to avoid things like people converting UBI, and all. We have seen a lot of people, doing tricks and cheating with the rules in the past. So, and it was very hard for us to control these rules, or to control is probably the wrong word, but yeah, police the rules, to make sure that the rules are followed. There were always loopholes. And by making UBI convertible, all these rules, or most of these rules, have become obsolete. We don't need them anymore. Yeah, because now you can convert UBI, then all the other rules we had in the past, you have to, there were limits, you cannot do this, you cannot transfer money to that person. If that person also receives UBI, goes onto UBI stack. All these rules were put in place to avoid people converting UBI to fiat. Now that we allow it, we don't need these rules anymore. So it makes things a lot easier for us as well. However, it is an additional risk for the stability of the system, because people can apply for UBI without paying any money in. They can take money out of the reserve by converting their UBI. And so we have to put some limits there to avoid that it affects the stability. And that, a lot of people sign up and all of a sudden, our reserve goes down because everyone takes money out. So that's why I propose a few changes in terms of the limits. So first of all, we will only distribute UBI in general if the reserve rate is over 15%. So in the past, it was 12%. We want to increase it to 15%. So we have a bit more buffer between, 10% minimum and the 15%. So that, even if there is a bigger group that takes out UBI and converts it to fiat, it doesn't instantly get us into the near 10% limit, right? The 15% is not a problem so far, because right now we're at 17.5%. And over the last 2 years, I think we've always been over 15% reserve rate. It just requires, then this just makes sure that we have even more in our reserves than we had in the past. UBI limit. Currently, the UBI limit is 12 times the monthly UBI allowance. So you can save, assume you receive 200 Neco UBI per month. 100, let's say 100, it's easier to calculate. I'm not the best with math. So 100 Neco UBI per month. Then your limit, the amount of money you could save on your UBI stack, was 12 times, so 1200 Neco. Yeah, and we kept sending UBI to every member until their stack was full, until you have reached 1200 Neco. Yeah, if people don't use it, we stop to a certain point. So it's not like you can save money for years and years and years and then go and buy you a Ferrari. Yeah, this is not what we want. Universal basic income, the purpose is to help people who need it. Unfortunately, what we've also seen in the past is people applied for a UBI that didn't really need it. They had enough money on the bank accounts, on the Neco accounts, and it was more used as an additional form of profit. And so the new model that I'm proposing kind of improves that situation. The new model would mean that you can still, everyone can apply for universal basic income. We want to keep it unconditional, so we're not going to ask how much money you have. Everyone can. But when you sell your Neco tokens or you transfer Neco tokens, it will always be done from your main Neco account, not from your UBI stack. The money on your UBI stack will only be touched if you have no more money left, right? And this will avoid the situation that we've seen in the past, where people have been, holding onto the money on the Neco account and then spending the money on their UBI stack as if it wasn't their money. We've seen people that had no money, so they were always like, "Oh, I have no money, I have no money," and then they used the money from the UBI to invite all their friends to expensive dinners. So this was, a problem. We have seen how it was used. It was just people considered the Neco stack and the UBI stack different. The one was, this is my money, and this other money I can just use for whatever I want. And this is not fair, because for all the money we would have to someone has to put money into reserve, even for universal basic income. We create these tokens, but we create them, we have to have at least, 10% in reserve for them. Okay. So this is the suggestion, and I think it will work really well. We're going to start testing it on the 1st of January. So with there will be one more payment under the old model in this quarter, and then we will change it. Now, coming to the question that Tina raised about the cash balance. The cash balance is an indicator we recently introduced to make convertible UBI possible. What is the cash balance? It tracks the amount of fiat money a member has added to or taken out of the reserve. So if you put money in reserve and then use Neco to pay, you have a positive cash balance because you have put more money into reserve than taken out. But if you, for example, only apply for universal basic income and start converting your universal basic income, your cash balance goes down. And that measures just in general how you are contributing to our community. We need the reserve to grow. So a positive cash balance is good. A negative balance is not so good. And we need to make sure that if people just keep receiving universal basic UBI and converting them, that this has a negative kind of a sanction, negative effect. And so the cash balance in this example would go down. Let's say you receive 1,000 Neco and UBI, you convert it into fiat, into euro, then your cash balance is negative, minus 1,000. And this would reduce the limit for a UBI. So you will receive less and less and less UBI. If you have spent your UBI limit, let's say the 10 times your monthly allowance, then you would no longer receive universal basic income. Yeah. I know it's a bit complicated, but the idea is to sanction converting UBI to fiat, because this is really what we don't want to happen on a big scale. It's something that is okay if people have to use it, but we want to avoid it and incentivize people to pay in Neco. UBI, the idea was also to be an incentive system for users to win other people to accept Neco, to be able to pay in universal basic income. We're going to keep this incentive in there. And we have to make sure that if we have people who are only taking money out of the reserve, that there is a limit. Yeah, so that it doesn't continue forever. So there is a limit where we say, okay, you have spent your entire UBI limit, everything has been converted to fiat. Sorry, we cannot give you any more. Good. Okay, guys, so bringing up this discussion, I know we are a bit behind the time schedule, but I have more time. I really want to, discuss these topics because they're highly important. So Tina, you seem to be...
No, it's okay. Then I only want to say this. Yes, I can understand this. It's not the basic universal basic income idea, but I can understand in this small community and with this, yes, ich kann es nachvollziehen. Yeah.
So we need to, in the universal basic income, also think of universal basic income also means pension in the future. It's also the pension model. And when you look at today's pension models, people who paid more into the system receive more, right? I mean, you want to have, it's just fair. If people have put more money into the Neco system, that they can receive more universal basic income. Also, we want to create this incentive for people to put money in. If we do not incentivize it, people will not put money in, right? And then they would only be incentivized to take money out. So if it wouldn't matter how much money you put in, then nobody would put in money and they would just apply for universal basic income and take it out. Yeah. And so this wouldn't work. I think this would cause a wrong incentive. And that's the thing, we have to be careful. We have to make sure that our system incentivizes things we want to have that help the community, that have a collective benefit, and that sanction things that we don't want to happen. So UBI over the last months, also a reason for sleepless nights for me, because it was going up and down and there were loopholes and there were issues, and how do we measure that? And I think this new approach, I feel really comfortable with. It's super simple. Well, not perfectly simple, but much simpler than all the things we've had before. And I would like to give it a try, starting the 1st of January, and see how things go and see how people accept it. Okay. Good. Guys, are there any more questions regarding or ideas regarding universal basic income? Anything you want to discuss around this topic? No. Good. Well, then let's move on to the next topic. I think we are, yes, the last topic on our agenda for today. And I know we have already exceeded our 90 minutes, and it's late. So I don't know if it's the best thing to come up with the most creative part at the end. But what we want to do, we want to rebrand Neco. We want to make a new logo. We are considering changing our slogan, and we are considering changing the names of our organization, or the parts of our DAO. So let me start with logo. So the current logo, this coin that you see, I like it because it's cool. By the way, a lot of people ask me, what are the zeros and ones? What do they mean? They're the binary code for NECO, Neco. So this is our logo. The thing with this logo is quite complicated. If you scale it down, you can't recognize it. So we need, in general, a simpler logo. A simpler logo that we have. My suggestion is to keep the coin. So I like the coin, we can keep it. You see Bitcoin, for example, there's a nice Bitcoin coin, like a golden coin with a Bitcoin logo in it. This is their coin. But in general, they just use the B with the two dashes inside. And I was thinking of something similar with Neco, that we have the N and maybe a dash or two dashes inside. That is easy, simple, and easy to recognize. Yeah.
You want a feedback on the idea?
Yes, I want feedback.
Because I love that logo as it is, with the link to the leaf, and the nature link. It's in my world that works perfectly, and
Yeah.
so I just don't agree with the idea to change the logo.
Yeah, we want to keep the coin. I also want to keep it, but I think we need to make the logo simpler. Otherwise, if you scale it down, you can't barely recognize it. But the thing is, we have developed this logo collectively a few years ago. So my suggestion is to do another collective brainstorming and collective design session where we invite our members to come up with new ideas, and then we let them decide if they want to keep the existing one, or just keep the coin and create a more simplified logo that we can that we can use in future.
Well, I will be able to live with that.
Good. All right, then. Okay, guys, if there are any ideas, feel free to share regarding the logo. The other thing is slogan. So right now, our slogan is for the common good. The reason why we have chosen this slogan is common good stands for, in Germany, is called Gemeinwohl, which is pretty much the basis of, of this Neco model, the Gemeinwohlökonomie, the common good economy of common good. However, Gemeinwohl is quite, as a word, is quite well known in the German-speaking area. But when you talk about common good in the rest of the world, they don't understand it. And so the idea was that a lot of people said, why don't you just change the slogan to for people, planet, and profit? Because that's very clear. That's very, and it fits with our triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. So this is a suggestion. Currently, personally, I tend to changing it to people, planet, profit. But I'm also, again, this will be a collective decision. We will run a survey, us with our community things. And if anyone has any good ideas here in this community, please feel free to share.
The people, planet, and profit, that's often used, and it's like it's not really something special, and the common good has the taste of the direction where the Neco wants to go to. And the idea that just came up is for the good common. So the good common is something different than the common good, but it has the taste of the search of what you intend to. So maybe you can get the taste of the good common. That might be a solution for this problem.
Yeah, okay. That's another option, and we'll bring that option into the survey and let our community decide. The good common. Yeah, any other thoughts?
I also wanted to add something, when it's okay.
Yes, please.
So I have a friend of mine who is a designer, and he also wanted to invest into Neco, but somehow it's not, the process is not going through right now. He's from Sri Lanka. Maybe that's also a topic why it's not working. But maybe he has some more ideas. He's a really good designer.
Yeah.
I can maybe give him, like, maybe he can send you a mail, or
Yeah. You can send me an email. My email is flo@neco.finance. I think we have set him up. We were just waiting for him to transfer the money, but I think the challenge for him is transferring money to our Euro accounts.
Okay.
I think we have set him up, but I'm not sure, because I think Sri Lanka is okay as a country.
Yeah, because I asked you, I think said also it's fine. So, but something was not working out. But anyway, for now, yeah, I can like send him the recording also, and then he can see also the logo and everything, and he can send you also a mail.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Melissa. Okay. Okay, the last rebranding part is the names. So our DAO organization will consist of multiple legal entities in multiple countries with multiple different purposes. This is the idea of decentralization. It will not just be one organization, it will be different ones. And they're not in like a corporate structure where one owns the other with a holding structure. It will all be like independent legal entities, just linked together through the Neco constitution. And right now, everything is called Neco Finance. So Neco Finance will be is supposed to be the name for our for the for-profit organizations. So Neco Finance OÜ, our token holder, that will be where the tokens are issued. And we will probably have a few other Neco Finance companies in other countries. But we also have our non-profit part. Currently, it's also called Neco Finance EV. It's a German legal entity. It's a non-profit. And, the first confusion it causes is like, why is a nonprofit in finance? The term finance doesn't fit with a nonprofit organization. So, a few years ago, when the Fridays for Future movement started, I thought, maybe it's a good idea to use the term Neco for Future. And our team agreed, let's rename it to Neco for Future. However, recently the Fridays for Future movement hasn't convinced me so far. In general, there's a couple of other issues I've seen, not just regarding, in getting involved with politics, but also that this organization has mostly been a protest organization. I've been involved with them in the past, and I really found working with them very painful because they're just against everything and not really supporting, solutions. It's more or less against everyone and blaming everyone else instead of really working on solutions. So that's why I put a question mark here. If you should use that term Neco for future, because it's a bit related to that organization. And I don't know if we want to have this connotation in the future. But I would like to have a term that we use for our nonprofit. And then we have the Neco Tech, which is the organization that manages the technical infrastructure for our organization, like the app, stack chain, and so on. So this is a separate legal entity, and we want to call it Neco Tech. And last but not least, Neocracy. That's our kind of, the name of the model of the organization, the collective intelligence. We will have to create a legal entity as a kind of legal wrapper where all our collective decisions, like this collector reference and so on, will happen. It's important to protect everyone in our community from legal liabilities. Or just in legal terms speaking, if we all collectively decide to raise universal basic income, for example, and something goes wrong, today every individual member who has been part of the decision could be held liable personally. It doesn't make more sense, but that's unfortunately our law. So we have to create a legal wrapper around it. And the name for this legal wrapper, in our opinion, should be Neocracy, as it wraps our Neocracy, which is the entire organization, including our internal organization, but also the members and partners who are connected with us, who are integrated into our decision-making process. Yeah, so these are the names that are suggested here, and I would like to get your feedback on what you think. So I'll bring up the messages. Okay.
What I get, if you use the name Neocracy, it's right to the point, because the wording expresses that it has its own structure. It's something that wants something.
Yeah.
And to be part of a Neocracy movement is something you can be with. Taking part in Neco Finance, this is nothing like an organization. So if you look for a wording for an organization, the Neocracy seems to be the most sensible approach to this issue.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, Tobias. And I want to share one more thing. So the first name that came to me when, like 10 years ago, the idea of Neco came up, I didn't call it Neco at that point of time. It was the Neocracy. And the term came from neo for new and democracy, based on collective intelligence, because currently, our democracies are not democracy in most cases, not at all. Because democracy means power of the people. In our democracies, people don't have power. We don't have the power to make laws. We don't have the power to decide on laws. All we have is every 4 years we change who has the power, but the people never really have power. So in my opinion, we don't have democracies today. We have oligarchies. And so the idea, and this is the problem that creates all these other problems with power and, wars, because if I think we would collectively decide, we could have decisions that are global, where most people actually agree, and we would not see decisions where people decide to go to war with each other. These are usually decisions by a single person, and a lot of these single power-hungry politicians create many of the problems that we have today.
Sure.
Our collective would be much smarter, would make decisions which are usually very similar across the globe. It would be much easier to come to solutions to our global problems.
For me, that feels like an USB. It's the main red, der rote Faden, der durch dieses ganze Neco-Ding durchführt, is the neocracy. So I would put it on a high level of communication.
Yep. Yep. You know, this was the initial idea, and then we broke it down slowly, you know, to a cryptocurrency, because this is the vehicle
Yes.
to make this big thing happen. Because it's impossible to do it on a political basis, so we have to do it another way. But this is the final goal. So this is why I believe this would be the right term for this collective organization.
I can feel that there is some sort of lineage in this name, you know.
Yeah. Yes. Cool. Thank you, Tobias. Thanks for the feedback. You know, very confirming. Anyone else? Yeah, I know it's 9 o'clock here already. Okay. Good. Then let's finish off. I think we need 5 more minutes. Oh, yeah, this was the last slide. Yeah, guys, so first of all, thank you so much for attending. Thank you for all your ideas, for your concerns, for your feedbacks. It's been very valuable. I want to finish this call with a last reminder to all of you. Actually, it's not going to be the last, because I'm going to send another reminder next week. But we are closing our private sales round by the end of the year. So after that, you will no longer be able to buy any Neco tokens until we go public. You will still be able to sell them, but no longer will you be able to buy. Also, you know, currently we have the private sales investor token. If you buy Neco tokens over €1,000 or more, you know, this is the last chance, the very, very last chance to get it. They will be gone. We will replace them with badges, so we will have your badges. But after the 31st, nobody will ever get these badges again. So this is the last opportunity to support us. Also, the last opportunity to invite others. So if you have friends that are really like good fit for the organization, that would want to support us over the next year, do it now. And, you know, next year we will continue the regulations. We will have continuous, you know, you will be involved, but we cannot grow the community any further. We have reached our limits. We have, you know, 500 active members. We have already almost 150 investors just in Germany alone, which is the new limit. And so we have reached our funding goals, so we cannot add more people to the community. This is the very last opportunity. So take this opportunity. And let me answer the last questions. There's 2 more questions coming in. Okay, yeah. No questions, but yeah. Yes.
One question from my side. You were at the World Economic Forum this
Yes, but
January?
2 years ago, and then I decided to not go again so far.
Okay, so that was my question. So it's already 2 years ago.
2 years
That's
ago.
my question. What is the feedback you collected there? And what I hear is you decided not to go there. That feels for me like you have made your decision about the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, so I was there when it was in May due to Corona. So it fit into my schedule. And I also needed to go to Switzerland. So it fit in. I didn't have to do, you know, I'm trying to keep my carbon footprint low. So I'm limiting myself usually to 2 flights a year. And I really consider long if I want to go to an event. And so the event, I met some interesting people, had some interesting conversations. I also saw that the topic of crypto is very present, but I also saw a lot of lack of integrity and hypocrisy. You know, when you see the people who are often in the inner circle coming with the helicopters and driving big black gas cars, I would love to see more examples of people who really live sustainability and start with themselves. A recent study by the Oxfam Institute showed that the richest 1% have a carbon footprint that is equivalent to the carbon footprint of the poorest 5 billion people on the planet. And I see this quite a lot in also the communities I am in, that often people who talk a lot about sustainability are the worst examples when you look on their own carbon footprint flying around. And so I wanted to reduce my carbon footprint. I prefer these remote conferences. And yeah, this year in January, it just doesn't fit into my schedule to go there. In general, I don't think it's there's also these people who think, the World Economic Forum is a terrible organization. I don't have this impression, but in general, I feel like, it is an organization that tries to do something positive, but I've not seen right now enough value for us. Also keep in mind that Neco is still kind of in a stealth mode. We haven't done marketing, we don't have the license yet, so I'm not promoting it right now too much. I want to focus on getting our work done and getting the license. And once we have these things, then we will start pushing the marketing machine. So I feel it's a bit too early as well. But I see, we will be there in the future, for sure. Good, guys. This is it. So we took 2 hours. I expected it to take a little longer, and it's great because it really helps to get feedback and to bring up the questions. So I wish you all the best. So thank you for attending. Happy holidays. And if you don't hear each other or see each other, then also a good new year, a good start into new year. I am really excited because next year we will be very busy, and finally, we are moving forward with the implementation of this project. So we're coming into building the things step by step, and we are now there at a point where we can really start the necessary decisions to prepare for our ICO, which is very important for us as an organization, but also for me. This project has taken much longer than I thought, but good things take time. So please be with us, please support us, and ask also for your patience and for your understanding.
Well, I want to gratulate because you're very straight on your way. And I want to mention that this night we have the winter solstice, which is the basic event for all the cultures we have all over the world. So it's a good time frame you set.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually didn't notice that I'd set it on the winter solstice until I had sent out the invite, and it was, hey, it's actually the winter solstice. Yeah, it's a good time. I thought it was good timing. And also thank you, Tobias, for the feedback. I'm also very happy that we started to do this. There's collective work, and what I've seen today confirmed to me that this is something we should continue in the past, at least on an annual basis. We also have our quarterly conferences, which are a bit also offer this opportunity to ask questions, but this today was a bit more a creative process. And
Sure.
I'm very looking forward to collectively working on our white paper and our constitution.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good evening and take care. See you soon.